the first part. It was very interesting. So we are pretty much now in charge for the second part, and I believe everybody understands very well. Thank you, Milosz, that you took the journey to pass the San Bernardino in the wild snow and brought us the good weather. That's fantastic. It always comes from the south, definitely. And also the good mood, I believe, and we continue on that. And we definitely need not to say that we have a very open debate, open spirit, no trigger points, etc. That doesn't exist on this level. It's very important, I believe, to say something about what we are talking about. So basically, definitely we'll talk about these publications. That was my first publication I have read, Wenn's keiner sagt, sag ich's. I like this title very much, and it was my entry point to get in touch with the brains and thoughts of you. But he also has a life before blockchain, and his life was very much academic. The doctor is in law, and I understood that you studied criminal law, comparative law. So I believe, Guido, if you look at your past, maybe we find some stuff in there. Nevertheless, you did this dissertation about, and I have to say it in German, Erinnerungsstrafrecht, eine Neubegründung des Verbots der Holocaustleugnung auf rechtsvergleichender und sozialphilosophischer Grundlage. That was published.
Very long.
Very long, and that gave you also a reason to go to Breisgau, Krakow, Paris and Berlin. So, and I'm really jealous about that you were in Paris so long at the Sorbonne. That is the University Panthéon-Sorbonne, where you taught German law and comparative law. And quite a long time. How do you survive Paris for 5 years without get an alcoholic?
How do you know?
So you look really good.
That's just the shape of the outside.
Yes, right.
And
but it's very important. That was also the time to start your career as journalist, first freelancer. And then I see that you had an alias, Dr. Strangelove. So I think that would be a good entry point to give a little bit your dark side. You have had the dark side already. Maybe there would be an entry point to explain a little bit, has this something to do with your studies in law, or how did you come into that territory?
Well, Dr. Strangelove was an alias when I wrote for the Neue Zürcher Zeitung, and I wrote about love. So online dating, relationships and stuff like this. So I didn't start with topics in tech or critical journalism as I do now, with all the ugly topics that I cover. And so my career in journalism started with very soft topics, and I was always interested in sociology, history, anthropology, and that's why I fell in love and online dating and stuff like this. And NZZ was interested. Not at the beginning, I pitched them the project first, that I could write a column about love and the relationship with economics. And they said, we don't think that it can last for long. It's you couldn't write a lot about it. So I pitched it to Neue Zürcher Zeitung am Sonntag and to Neue Zürcher, the normal one. So the Sonntagszeitung said no, and the other said, yeah, we'd love to have it. And then it lasted for several years, and then it turned into a weekly or 2-weekly column for the Neue Zürcher Zeitung, where I could basically express myself a long time easily on every topic that I wanted. And I could orange pill the readers on on Bitcoin quite early in 2018, and I did it extensively until I successfully got kicked out
Also if you
some years
look
ago.
in Wikipedia, there is a separate story about this. It's quite interesting to read. You can, also it's very close to the reality, right? Also what they wrote.
Yeah, quite more or less. Not everything. Don't trust Wikipedia at all.
No, definitely. But, right.
Yeah. It was a controversial about one COVID column that I gave later to a journalist that they don't like at all, who wanted to make a podcast out of it, and NZZ really got they got angry and they blew it up basically, and that was the story. But for me it was good because it forced me to build up my own publication. So they set me free, and now I run a newsletter, Free Floating Intelligence, or Freischwebende Intelligenz, which grew to one of the most read critical newsletters in the last years.
That is really, I believe, that was for me very important to read, to go through it, because it reflects quite well written some moments of this time.
Quite well.
Quite really, and it's very important. And this is the latest one. It's called Stromaufwärts zur Quelle, with some fishes on it. And I did a Lesung, first time that I organized a Lesung, that was in the Zug, in the very nice Bürgerhaus. And as a matter of fact, the fishes here, they look red, you know, and the fishes, they are the same as the Zug has in their tradition. I mean, they are these red fishes where they even used as a currency in the very early days of Zug. And this gave me kind of a coincidence, because I did so many events, blockchain events, in this wonderful Bürgerhaus. It's a 500-year-old place with very nice things at a wooden place. It's a Gothic place. And it's also worth to read, in my view, because at least it touches my heart and soul, and also, of course, the rational, at least the rest of it. Nevertheless, you published not only these books, these are the current books, you also have been entered the blockchain space in 2018, I guess. You wrote a book about Cryptopia. And that was quite surprising to me, but now it's, with your presentation tomorrow we will hold, it has some logic. But what I wanted to ask you is, at this time, 2018, that was just after the jump from 19,000 then back to about 8,000, etc. And that was quite another feeling, I believe. And maybe you remember this time, and you wrote this book, and you made some thoughts about the future, etc. Maybe you can say some words about the motivation of this book and what your thoughts were that time.
Yes. So I fell into the crypto rabbit hole like in 2017 when I was researching for another book, which was Generation Stillstand, where I wrote mainly about millennials and how their relationship is to other generations. And I asked myself, what are our errors? Where are we blind? Because we are good in judging others and not so good in seeing our blind spots. And I thought, okay, maybe the money system could be a good topic. So I researched the money system, and I was astonished that I hadn't heard anything about stuff like this. In my studies, I have studied law, I've studied political science, a little bit economics also. And fractional reserve money, everything looked mysterious to me. And then I got into gold, I got interested into for crypto. And then I bought Ripple, sold it soon, got back into Bitcoin. And yes, then this whole new era started, where basically everybody was talking about decentralization and what you can do with it. And that really caught me intellectually. I would say it was not only the possibility to make money with Bitcoin, of course, that was also a motivation. I've been trading stocks, derivatives since I'm 18, so I'm always looking for opportunities. But it was, I would say, the intellectual adventure of my life, seeing that there's a new era looming which resembles the Renaissance, where a lot of different topics merge, where new structures emerge, and where power goes back to the citizen. And that really caught me, and I started to write extensively about it. And then I had a chat with a colleague of mine who's also a Bitcoiner from 2014. He got orange pilled co-author in 2014 already by a guy in Thailand. And we asked ourselves, maybe we should write a small book because crypto is interesting. There's nothing in the mainstream. There's only self-publishing books. So we were the first Germans that got a normal contract for a book about Bitcoin and blockchain. In 2018, I think we just had 2 months to write it. So basically he was writing his stuff, I was writing my stuff. We were fighting a little bit and trying to get people interested with it. He had a nice idea to put to every chapter the price of Bitcoin.
Right.
So when you read it now, you think, oh, it's like maybe 4,000, 6,000 and stuff like this, or even less. And it was. We also agreed with the publisher to get paid in crypto, so we could have been the first worldwide to get paid in crypto, but then they dropped it. They couldn't do it technically, or they didn't want to. And for startup ideas and books, you know it, timing is very important. So we had the worst timing possible because the people were not ready for Bitcoin at all. They were not interested in Bitcoin at that time. Today it's changing a little bit, but it's still not the one topic that gets the most of attention. And we published it, and it sold miserably. I think it sold 300 copies only. I bought the last 100 like some months ago because they put it out of. You can't buy it anymore. It's like finished.
I bought it.
You bought it?
Yeah.
When?
Half a year ago.
Okay, then it was
probably secondary market.
Secondary market or first market?
No.
Okay.
It was available.
Oh, you bought it over the counter for more?
In the dark web.
On the dark web, okay. So now
No, I bought it. I got it. But my dog.
Your dog ate it.
Sorry. But at least the content was not touched. It was just outside, and I was able to read page 75. On page 75, in the book Cryptopia, you wrote "Brave New Crypto World, Fata Morganas and Oasis on the Horizon." And you must know that was exactly after this 19,000 drop to $6,755 US. That was on the 10th of April 2018. And I believe that is quite a smash for everybody then to think, yeah, I believe in the 100,000 level, or in this mark. Do you remember this time?
I remember it, and of course for publishing it was the worst possible, because people were saying, now you proved that you're not right, we are right, it's a fad, it will go away, it's just boom and bust. And basically the story of the mainstream is always the same thing. When it's on the rise, it's just, how do you call it, a bubble, and when it goes down, the bubble just bursts. So the mainstream is always right in their opinion, and they can always say they are right, but they never touch the project, or they never touch the topic when Bitcoin is low, by saying, okay, it could get high again. So journalists only jump on it when it's very low to say it's a fad, or when it's very high to say, oh, it seems like it's coiling up again. So I wasn't happy at all with how the topic was treated in journalism. And maybe you know the feeling when you read something about a topic where you have expertise, and a journalist can't have expertise in every topic, of course. He has expertise in some topics. And you read this article and you say, okay, here he's not correct, here it's absolutely bullshit, here it's stuff like this. And mainly people read that, where they have expertise, and then they read other topics, thinking again, okay, now the world is good again, and the journalists are right, we should believe them. So this topic of Bitcoin and blockchain really taught me how little they know and how many errors they make, I guess on purpose. I still read bizarre stuff like the halving event means that the price of Bitcoin will drop to half, or stuff like this. It's really, really bad, and it shows that there is really the need for publishing about this topic and really orange pilling people about it. And I do this now with my publication, and it's ramping up. People get more and more interested. Of course, now the price helps a lot that they get more interested than like maybe 2 years ago. But still, I can write an article about it, and I always get the same stupid questions again. So it's a long way to go still to show people how this works. And I think people have to do their own research at the end. You shouldn't read something, believe the guy, and think, okay, now it's the thing. What I can do is only showing the door. People have to open it and go through it themselves. And once they're into it, I guess they can have the same intellectual richness that I experienced. And that for me is the most enriching thing that is there.
Do you feel the publishers have opened to the topic?
Yes, much more.
Because I have the exact same experience. We're publishing a book too. It's a novel, non-fiction.
Okay.
But it's exactly the same. We got 27 rejections from the big houses saying, oh no, this topic, nobody will get it. It's too complicated. You can't write about it. And there are actually the smaller publishers who are more interested because they feel like they can get a jump start on the big houses here. So I'm kind of interested in how your experience are with the publishers.
I think it's, my publisher, it's a special publishing house because it's a very old publishing house, like 250 years old. And it was bought by Christiane von Salm. She was the MTV Germany head like 10, 20 years ago. And she published a series of books at once with beautiful cartonnage and really nice things. And it was such a misery that they never published anything again since. So I think they failed completely with their company. So maybe it's not a good sign for other publishing houses to go the same direction. But now I see books like from Mark Friedrich, who gets on best-selling lists, and he can transport it easily. He's smooth in his words. So I think it has definitely bestseller potential. Maybe now you're on time, because when you get it out in the next half year, you will have the bull run for your book, and people will get it. So you get the timing better than us, but we were the first.
Maybe you should add some trigger words like Bitcoin or something like that.
Oh, I've tried, but
I mean,
I get the feeling in Germany you have very, very conservative houses. And we've tried all the big ones, obviously. We've tried some smaller ones who were more interested, but then said the book as a whole was too long. So there are a few complications, but I think the timing is way better now than it was half a year ago.
But I think it's still difficult for me as somebody also observed how the books. I think it's for its value to make books explaining blockchain to the mass, because this gives people the possibility to understand. So I'm sorry to say, but from Julian Assange, Cryptocurrencies, the book I have in the beginning recommended to some people and say, read it, then you have to understand before you invest. I think as soon as it comes to the point where you talk about this trading and projects and so on, and prices in it. We all have seen how much waste have been in it. And even if we talk about technology, if we just see where we come from into 80 and what comes up, then there was always a new, in Germany say ein neues Pferd, was durch den Stall getrieben wird, a new chapter coming on, and NFTs are now, for our world, the most important thing, and all the other things came up. It's difficult to have a book which should be on the market of a year or two, which is already after 3 or 4 months expired because we have been too fast in development. I think this is a challenge for what you're writing.
Okay, the strategies about when is good timing for books we can take afterwards. Nevertheless, I definitely want to touch base with you on one topic, on one currency, that's either the freedom of speech or censorship or whatever. I mean, these are the topics I believe that are flying around, and it's even in the mainstream. It's not a good feeling, basically, if you look in Germany, etc. And if you go back 10 days ago, I think that was, you had an article in the Weltwoche about Julian Assange. And I believe Julian Assange has had 3 or 4 years ago much more coverage in the media, but it seems to be disappeared today. Can you a bit explain this silence of the press? Because it's a journalist, and he comes from Australia, and is now in a British prison, not very in a good shape, from a health point of view, and nobody's interested.
From the criminal, he's in jail because he was violating a Kautionsauflage. So it means he's not in jail because of crime. He is in jail because when they searched for him, or they wanted to bring him to US, he flew into the embassy of Ecuador, and he was not allowed to leave Britain, but he was in London in the embassy. But because the embassy was exterritorial, they said they violated. The whole case with the sexual abuse in Sweden was a scam. It's finished, and they just took him in this prison for nothing. So it's not even that he's there for a crime.
Milosz, I want to hear your opinion on that. Can you explain it? How do you see this situation? Because you, early on already in 2019, you already wrote about it, and now what is your view on that? It's very important for me.
Well, the Assange case is very complicated. It has a lot of different topics. We can't sum it up in small words. But it shows how rotten to the core journalism is. The silence of journalists in this case, for me, is one of the biggest scandals that I have experienced in the last years. So it shows also, I mean, Julian Assange is a cypherpunk. That's the relationship with Bitcoin. He was on the mailing list also. He was one of the guys who said, don't send us donations in Bitcoin in 2010 or 11 because Bitcoin is maybe not strong enough to fight against suppression from the state at that level. Later he accepted Bitcoin as for donations, and they got a lot. I think WikiLeaks could be fine with what they have in Bitcoin. But Julian Assange's case, for me, shows the state of freedom, let's say not only freedom of speech, but freedom in the West. Because freedom and liberty is a concept that is undivisible. If only one guy is in prison for exerting his rights as a citizen in a free world, to express his opinions, to publish information which is critical for every one of us to make our political decisions. He never published anything wrong. He has a 100% no fake news track record. No one was ever harmed by his information. There was no proof that anybody was harmed. So he's a political prisoner. He's a dissident in the West, where dissidents, by definition, for me, can't exist, because democracy is based on dissent. That is the core principle that we have, that we can talk about everything and we have conflicting opinions and maybe opinions about certain topics. And he's not now in jail for this probation thing. He's now, because he's on extradition to the United States for a crime which is basically based on in the Espionage Act in the United States, which is a very old law from the 20s, I think, which was never used against journalists. And also this shows how democracies turn into totalitarian systems from the inner, it's like inverted totalitarianism. It's not showing on the outside, it's still democracy on the outside, but on the inside, it's not that anybody from the political side seems to believe in these values anymore. They say, oh yeah, we believe in it, it's good, maybe we should free Assange, but it's like lip service. I lost my belief in democracy as it is in the last years, and also in the legal system, and also in journalism, basically. So I lost all my hope. And Bitcoin gives me hope. That's to turn it positively. Bitcoin and blockchain really gives me hope that we can now, from this experience, which is maybe not yet arriving to the minds of everybody, because it's clear. I mean, people have their jobs, they have their own problems, they don't see censorship. They maybe feel that they can't express or shouldn't express their opinions on every topic like freely. I mean, we have opinion polls in Germany where like 60% expressed that they have fear to express their opinion openly about certain topics. I mean, this is like a situation that is known from totalitarian states. I mean, I was born in Poland. I was very young when I left Poland. My parents told me about this time. And maybe people that have this experience of a totalitarian system, which in my case was of course very, very small, but when I speak with other people from former bloc countries or from Eastern Germany, we all smell it. We smell it coming back. And journalists smell it the first. And when I talk with my critical colleagues in Germany, basically everybody's leaving. They're leaving the countries again. It's like exile. It's like 80 years ago, or in like Russia, Solzhenitsyn and everything.
Where do they go?
Some go to Switzerland. Others went to Sweden or Montenegro, right, Schuster, or South America. So they're really like fleeing the country. And I met one of my colleagues yesterday, Paul Brandenburg, maybe you know him. He got 60 cases against him running by the police right now. They raided his home at 5:30 in the morning, dragged him naked out of bed, frightened the shit out of his girlfriend and his little daughter, for just some guy who reported he might have weapons and he is planning to overthrow the government. I mean, this is really like...
What's like writing very critical?
He writes critical stuff and he... Yeah, anti-government, and he's one of the guys who really clearly says it's fascism that's coming. So they hate him, of course, they're after him. And he said, like, he has friends in police and military and everywhere, and because it's not monolithic. When we talk about the state and police and everything else, it's never a monolithic concept. There are always people that see through it, and they're critical also. And those people told him basically that maybe it's now time to, high time to go away, to hide away.
There was a journalist from the public media who was privately was Ken FM. He made a very successful channel. He had to leave Germany. I don't know if he's in Austria or
I think he's in Austria.
Yeah, in Austria. Then there was Reitschuster. Reitschuster asked in the government question assembly, which is there where the government has to answer to the journalist question. He asked a lot of critical questions, only asking questions. He got 500,000 followers. He had to leave the country. He's now in Montenegro. There was now Hots. There are two journalists who just made a channel and making comments on all what's happening and releasing information. They have now the next under pressure. So the list of journalists in Germany, like you said, who are all asking critical questions are directly removed and really get the message, we are on you, and then they have to leave the country. And this is, like you said, it's even worse than in Russia, partly.
And what really scares me is the regulation, lawmaking in EU, the DMA, the Plattformbetreibergesetz, and all this stuff, which is basically allowing governments to suppress free speech and opinion. And for example, in our project, that's a big driver to build something which is censor resistant, and actually everyone can be his or her own platform.
Yeah.
And so basically the law doesn't have basically attack vectors to suppress you, and blockchain is definitely a way. And if you see it not as just a crypto token thing, but as a thing where you can get back data ownership, sovereignty, tamper-proof, censor-resistant, you can really build democracy again.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that I'm also a journalist. So to be honest, when a lot of things came up, I registered myself as a journalist, so I have an official ID card for that, and I started to share a lot of posts where I think for a full picture people should also see the other side, because only one side there. And I got now I had my second case where the German Staatsschutz, this is the government protection, made a criminal investigation against me because I shared a post. But I won now the second time that I said, as long as I'm not liking it, if I'm only sharing it, I'm doing what journalists are doing. They just bring the information and distribute it to the audience so that they can decide. And so I was very lucky. Just 2 weeks ago, I got the next release from the State Council that I'm doing my job. Yeah.
We open up a little bit broad, of course. I really wanted to go back to the media. So media, basically, it's also a media problem, and I see a little bit. When you look back, when the Bitcoin has been deployed, then there was a saying, finance needs a restart. Finance is broken. That was kind of the call to action. Currently, when you talk about your project tomorrow in more detail, can you say media is broken and we could now use a decentralized system, as you mentioned, at least to prevent censorship or other activities that goes into the situation that you have another gatekeeper, that there's no gatekeeper there, there is a common sense, and what if something hate speech, then you just turn away because nobody likes hate speech, basically. How do you think about this? So is it kind of a second chance using decentralized technologies just to fix a media system?
Definitely, and it's a big hope that it can basically do it. I agree with basically, we should have a talk later because I think we're working on the same topics, and it's good that it happens. I think we're now in a situation where we already lost our freedoms. Most of people haven't recognized this yet because they're not expressing their opinions. As long as you don't express your opinions, you won't feel it. It's like Rosa Luxemburg said, you don't feel the chains until you move. Then you feel them. So that's a little bit the problem we are now in, and the media system for me is completely dysfunctional. It's rotten. Media have the the main purpose of media is to bring conflicting opinions, conflicting information together, to show the big picture, not to, let's say, teach people what to think, not to narrow the subjects down to what they like you to see. It's basically, it has become PR. The media business for me now is a PR business. It's also linked with how media is financed. It's financed, of course, mainly not through the reader. People think, oh, it's the readers that buy it. No, it's mainly the ads they're running. So there's this funny saying what happens when a journalist meets a PR person, they recognize that they're working in different branches. The media guy is basically the PR guy, and the PR guy is the journalist, because the PR guy has to know which information is good, where to place his ad. And the journalist is basically filling the spaces between the ads. So he's there just to attract people to click then or see the ads. So this is a situation, I'm not completely against advertisement in media, not at all, but it leads to a situation where the state and corporate business can have a directory where the information should go. And of course we saw it during COVID times, where governments were running big ads, where pharma was running big ads. You have these videos presented by Pfizer, presented by Pfizer, presented by Pfizer. So they have the money to basically bring their information into the space. The same problem exists, by the way, with scientific publications as well. It's like when you have, let's say, a group of 10 Wissenschaftler? Scientists, right, it's an easy word. 10 scientists working for normal universities, getting paid by those universities, and publishing their stuff. There's no big intrusion. But when you have like 100 more publications coming on the market that are sponsored by someone, it completely changes the environment. Of course, you can still find the critical, real good scientific information, but it's hidden under like 90% of lookalike scientific information, which is basically PR. And what astonishes me a lot is that no one is reporting about this conflicts of interest. I have exposed some of the medical doctors in Switzerland who are basically paid by the pharma industry, and no one is interested in this. So there are a lot of...
That would be the role of the media as you understand it.
The media are the watchdog, and now the watchdog is sleeping.
But so isn't that a little bit, sorry to be a little bit blunt, isn't that a little bit a fantasy world, media, freedom, etc.? Because if you look, for instance, 100 years ago, there's a nice book, Mr. Blom, Der taumelnde Kontinent. And there was also a pre-war situation where the media told stories about the German, and the British told stories about that. Lies from the morning to the evening. Incredible lies. And they lie. I mean, media is just a platform. And sometimes we have the feeling, it's they do their job as a corrective in a good sense, that they correct the powerful people. But if you really are serious in terms of realistic, isn't that a bit naive?
Well, what we see in media is a concentration also. So it's when you have some big publishing houses, maybe like in Germany, you can name basically 5 big companies that are, and then it's 5 big families that are covering like 95% of the market. And when you take Friede Springer, the heir to Axel Springer, who's good friend with Angela Merkel, and Angela Merkel tells her, well, we have these new vaccines, shouldn't we get them out? Shouldn't you help us a little bit? And she drops the information to the redactor-in-chief, and he then speaks like we should have 20 BioNTechs in Germany. I mean, it's easy to have corruption and access to media businesses when there are only a few you have to control, because then it goes top down to every other small journalist somewhere in a small newspaper who has maybe critical ideas and has the feeling that he can write about everything, but he gets maybe just discouraged a little bit. Yeah, he goes to his chief and says, well, I could write about Assange, what do you think? Oh, well, yeah, but yeah, you can do it, write it. Then he writes it and they tell him, it's a brilliant article, but I think we had that lately already and there's nothing really new happening, so maybe the next time. And if you hear that like 2 or 3 times, you somehow get the idea that they don't want it. And if you want to have a career there, you should maybe align to topics that are more interesting to the publishing house. And the problems in journalism are old since journalism exists. Free information was always under attack. When there was the first newspaper coming out in the United States, like 250 years ago, it was forbidden the next day. And this top-down organization of journalism has basically become very quickly a law. There's this theory of Robert Michels, the oligarchization of every movement there is. Oh. It can start freely. You can start like a small journalist with just one page on your paper, and you can have success with it. But as it grows bigger, this oligarchization happens. It happens as a fact.
But journalism relies on news, right?
Yes, not only, but
if you look at the news, there's also a production. There are, and if the news per se are highlighting information or things that maybe are not really relevant to understand the whole. So, I mean, that meaning we have turned the light off and we just have a light on there, and that's the news, because it's in the spotlight. And if you really look at the news, and if the news are wrong, basically, or at least in a certain direction, then the journalist has a wrong basis to build on it. How do you deal with that? I mean, that's a little bit my problem to understand it. If you have the news channels, news on the one hand, and the journalist on the other hand, who is based on these news services.
Well, it's trickling down like top to the bottom. You have news agencies that are basically like making the news or giving a ground to the news. Like they function like truth ministries, you can say. Let's say it like George Orwell. Take the situation of war. This situation was also described by Walter Lippmann, a very known and famous journalist, in the 1930s, 1940s, who also worked in PR, by the way. And he said the news agencies, they produce the information from their sources. So the journalists who get this information later, they trust this source. So it's a business that is basically based on trust. Every Bitcoiner now has his red flags. We don't want to trust, we want to verify. They don't verify. So in the case of war, as Lippmann described it, it was the same problem 100 years ago. He wrote it down in a small, short, nice book, Liberty of the Press, I think it's called. What happens on the field in the war? There's one journalist from the news agency. Readers later think that the journalist is in the field. He sees what he's talking about. No, it's maybe 1 or 2 journalists from these news agencies that get a briefing from a general, who is of course on our side. It's never a general from the other side. And this general tells them what is happening on the field. and then they write it down.
Embedded journalism.
They write it down in a small piece. Basically, this is happening. This is trusted information, the best information we get. And then it's trickling down to the newspapers. So newspapers drag this from the agencies, and they might get 100, 150 of these small pieces every day. And they can still choose what they want to publish, of course. So they pick out something which is in alignment with their publisher's line, maybe with the interests of the publisher, of the advertisers and everything else. And maybe they give a little spin to it, also from their political perspective, because all newspapers today that we have, Switzerland is no exception, have been political at the beginning. So newspapers started as basically mouthpieces for political parties. NZZ, FDP, Weltwoche, now SVP, and the leftist media, of course, also. So this is also a problem, that every information you read in newspapers goes through different filters. This is famous filter model from Noam Chomsky. Someone chooses it, someone changes it a little bit, gives it a spin, and for the reader it's impossible to really get to the core of the truth. So it's a business that is saying we're speaking the truth, and the truth you get is like, in this game in Germany we say stille Post, you know it, where you tell someone something and it goes from ear to ear, and at the end it's completely blurry. So that's the situation we have, and when readers only base their opinions on like the literal meaning of what they read, I mean, that's where the work starts, but you can't explain that to the normal reader, because, I mean, they have their families, they have their jobs, they have their problems, they want to get informed, and they want to get informed quickly.
There was the Udo Ufkott, who was a long time the leader of the foreign department of the FAZ, one of the biggest, and long time a very good newspaper. And when he left it, he wrote a book, at least, that when he was in Iraq, any of his reports, he had to report first to the political department of the US embassy, and then they allowed him a couple of days later to have a view to secret documents to change his article a little bit according to these facts, until he realized that at least these were just fake documents they took to him. And also if you look to Ukraine, where all the information has come from the secret report of the MI6 published by the Defense Ministry of UK, and Volker Bräutigam, who was long in the German Tagesschau, also in the reduction, he said in Pentagon, was his statement, you can see it if you go to YouTube in an interview with 19,000 journalists in the Pentagon writing articles, videos, audits, which go all to Associated Press. Associated Press is releasing them, and the DPR, the German news agency, is taking at least 70% or 60 to 80% of this post, like you said, into it. I have two small questions. How you see the impact of AI? Is it improving, or is it making even worse? And the second question, if you see this conflict in Israel now, is there the same problematic, or is it a more true picture? Now we get there.
AI is interesting. I know some publishers who rely on AI for like easy information, like speaking about who won the football match and stuff like this. So there are newspapers that are taking like 10, 15% already of the content from AI. So this will make all these useless journalists very soon unemployed, which is a good sign. Well, with AI, I would rely. I think it's interesting, but it's mainly interesting for research. Like if you have to scan a book with AI, it helps you a lot to get to the topics where you think, okay, I could read the whole book, but maybe the AI can show me quicker where the information is, and they show the page later, and you can find and read the really important things more easy. For writing, I don't know, maybe there are some people that use it already for like more complex stuff. I think it's not my style of reading that I enjoy when I read something written by a artificial intelligence. I think it shows that it lacks creativity. It's always the same wordings. It has nothing artful in it. Of course, for most of the people, maybe it's not important to read a witty, cool article. But I have an honor as a journalist to do it differently. So I would never use AI to write my stuff, but I would use it for research. So in that sense, I think we are at the beginning of this whole process. I don't know what is hidden behind this whole AI in publishing. There can be a lot of stuff that can be interesting. Also for like knowing which books can be bestsellers. Like you can scan whole books without showing to the AI how the books scored on the best-selling lists and basically find out if it's a page turner or not. I mean, this is amazing. And it maybe can make publishing also better, so I'm not against it at all. But I would say it's more important for research than for publication right now. Israel-Gaza, it's one of those old conflicts where you can see very well how it works in media. I think it's a topic that divides again people. So it's what I'm experiencing the last years is that we're getting a cadence of topics which are divisive. And the topics are presented in a way where you should have the right opinion very quickly, which is presented by the news agencies or the newspapers. And where you quickly recognize when you have a different opinion or very strongly disagree with the mainstream, you get very quickly kicked out. And it doesn't need much to be labeled an extremist, an anti-Semite and everything else. So it can be climate, it can be migration, it can be Corona, it can be Russia, it can be Israel. I have the feeling that it's like a machine that is dividing a pizza that is like turning around like on a disc jockey table, and it's like this. It's cutting through and basically bringing people up against themselves. And at the end, you have like this hysterical groups yelling at each other, and politicians say, "Very fine, people are busy with their stuff. We can move to the next conflict, to the next war, and everything else." So. Yeah, it's like this, and but we have, we have new things coming up. We have citizen journalism. We have right now Twitter, which helps a lot with Elon Musk. I'm not believing that he's maybe the savior or the good guy forever, but at the moment he's doing good stuff. And we have newsletters like Substack, where I'm publishing also, and they, for the moment, they're a normal company from the Silicon Valley, but for the moment their unique selling point is that they're not censoring. And if they want to survive, they should not do it, because otherwise they're gone. So it helps a lot to, you have these small plans already, and some of these journalists, they are dropouts from New York Times, Alex Berenson or Barry Weiss. They make in 6 figures 3 months after they dropped out with Substack, and basically there you see that there's a market for critical information, and it can serve as an example for other journalists that maybe think, okay, why is it that I can have no traction at all as a mainstream journalist when I write a newsletter on mainstream topics, but the other guy who's critical, he gets the readers, he gets the likes, and he gets the subscriptions. So what we see now is a gap between this old world of journalism and the new world emerging. And this is at least when we can get over the censorship thing, which is now getting rampant again very, very much, and it will get stronger, I think, in the next month. If we can get over it, we might have a bright future also. So it's a fight. We're in an era of an old system that is dying and a new system that has not yet been born. This is called the period of crisis, like Gramsci said. And this period of crisis is is giving birth to monsters, and we see these monsters right now. But it's not over. We can.
Just maybe I'm also thinking about decentralization of media. I think it's already happening, and I don't read newspapers for some years already at all, but I have channels in Telegram or in some other resources where there are groups like it can be 1,000 subscribers or very limited group where you get all information and you can discuss it as well. You can really see that it's out of the politicians. Sometimes they subscribe as well, and then this particular channel can have problems lately. And but as I see that this is already happening, but what's your opinion? People moving to these groups and they're trying to not make it too public sometimes because they also preserve this information. They don't want to share very loudly what they think about, but they get they get real news and they understand what's really happening.
Yeah, of course, it's very important to have those spaces that are not censored yet and where people can read stuff that is not in the mainstream and where they can discuss it. Often those projects are run by non-journalists. Sometimes it's a good thing. Sometimes I don't know if they prove if they're getting to the source of it. And of course there's a lot of rubbish and bullshit also in these channels. But it can be a starting point to make up your mind on your own. So from this perspective it's very good. And even if you have 10 or 15 different opinions on one topic, it only gets you into thinking. I mean, if you get completely conflicting information, there was this writer, Robert Anton Wilson, who once said, if you open up a lot of reality channels, either you get paranoid or you start to think by yourself. And I think what we experience now is that we're getting into this period where so many new informations are coming in. We see that the mainstream is suffering. I mean, we are a bunch maybe of 15 people in Germany or 20 people that are really critical and have big channels, and we frighten the hell out of a system that has unlimited resources. We are fighting against intelligence and political structures, military, and everything else. I mean, it's. You can still change a lot by deferring, because in all totalitarian states, the first ones that got tackled were journalists, free thinkers, poets. Those systems are afraid of those people.
And what do you think about limitation in terms of internet space? What I can see in Russia now, that actually many of the sources are only available in Russia, so they block it on the Grenze, so it's not possible to use this information outside Russia, and VPN doesn't help anymore. And I'm just worried if what you're telling about Germany, it will be a tendency that the countries will limit the usage, and this will end of the blockchain. I don't know, for me it's a bit scary, because we exist in the decentralized digital world, and if they will limit the, let's say, freedom of the internet movement, then it's the end of everything. I don't know, what do you think about it?
I'm not an expert on this technical side, geo-blocking and everything else. Maybe you can answer it better, but I think it's a race between the state and certain government actors trying to limit the scope of information available, and people that are searching for this information. So I think there should be already some possibilities through dark web. If it's not VPN, it's maybe dark web or something else, where you can still find certain information that goes through, but it demands, of course, more effort from the normal user, and they take channels away, new channels emerge on other platforms, and they have to grow again. And so what we need is a non-censorable platform that allows other people to, or everybody to basically confront different ideas, and which then will be scalable to unlimited, because basically where we are now at. Am I taking your pitch?
You're doing our pitch.
Well, or you are doing my pitch because I'm pitching also.
We're
So
actually building that.
we too.
He's describing the demands, and you can fulfill them with your business model.
Yeah.
So it's a positive
We will
thing.
come with the same project.
We have basically the same project. I
Okay,
think.
for
We're
that.
building it. You mentioned Telegram before.
So Telegram decentralization. So Telegram is controlled by someone. So
Totally.
you're not talking to your friend. You're talking to a server, and that is talking to your friend. So you have the gatekeeper. And if you talk about decentralization, you have to take everything into account. So, for example, you can build systems, and we're doing that, which work local first and peer-to-peer. So there's no server anymore. So, which means only the point of interaction. For example, if you're a group of 5 people and you're interacting, you are your own platform. So you only use your common resources, and there's no middleman. It's just you 5 people, your consents, and no one else. And that's indefinitely scalable, because you can have multiple of these points and they can interact through a blockchain again. And
But you have no single point of attack.
you have no
like
single point of
the
attack.
Telegram
No, it's
address.
perfect. My question is, because I work in regulation, you know as well. The question
I
is,
still like you.
the question is, do we see any hindrance or risk that just regulator will not allow it, and then it will
You
become?
can't suppress it. It's like Bitcoin. That's the point. You cannot suppress it.
You can't
You
turn
can-
every
you can
computer
forbid
off
it,
in planet
but you
Earth.
can't
It's impossible.
But you can't stop people using it. It's impossible. No one can prohibit to you that you start using something on your.
I'd
There
like
is a
to
big
express it
project-
a bit more radically. You can shoot us in the head, but the vision survives, most definitely. And you can definitely not shoot every single person with that vision of a truly decentralized future, which is censorship resistant. So you might get us out of the way, you might get all of us out of the way, but there's guys in Russia, in the USA, all over the globe with the same vision and the same idea. So I'm thinking regulations might come, and regulations are hindering in some ways, but the great vision will most definitely survive and overcome those regulations.
But
You can
let's take
sanction the
it.
end user, right?
Sorry?
You can sanction the end user like it was with Pirate Bay. That's
Yes.
the case with Pirate Bay. You can't hinder the platform to exist, but you can sanction the end user and say it's illegal to use the platform.
Yeah, it's like in China, and people move somewhere else. And on the end, they embrace it again.
But
because
there's
it
still
is out.
billions of people who can't move.
Yeah, but maybe a story for the next book. If we take a little bit this Corona topic and transfer it to IT, if tomorrow we are shutting down, at least many people say Bitcoin is our reserve in a financial crisis and don't rely on it, but we are shutting down tomorrow all the energy system of the world, or of a part of the world, and then we say this was done because of a computer virus, and we allow you now to re-enter. If we open the computer systems again, we just allow you to re-enter your computer. If your computer has before uploaded a special vaccination program, and then you can enter it. And then this vaccination program is at least only allowing it.
Yeah.
That's a
Allowing,
great story. Actually.
allowing no, but some later, I think it was 2 years ago when we discussed it here also in the forum about what could stop us. And I think if you think about what could stop us, my question was, is this something realistic which could work? Or is your system, for example, in a way that no, according to the system, nobody can stop us with such a vaccination program on any computer, which is at least a new gatekeeper controlling your computer?
It's already working. There's a project called Theta Token. And it moved from 14 cents to $14, then it moved back down to $1. Now it's at about $3, and it's decentralized streaming. So it's not YouTube, which is central, but it's basically Bitcoin YouTube. So everybody is just a part of a network, and no matter who they shut down, it will work, and you will get the information out. It exists. It's very good. It's very fabulous, and it will grow immensely. So it has been out there for 6 years.
But it's being operated on a blockchain which runs on servers which people can control. And
That's normal.
Yeah,
That's
that's normal. But if you decentralize that, so basically we're trying to decentralize even blockchain, which means
You mean decentralize the cloud services? Because that's
Physical
the issue what we got right
Yeah.
now. The cloud
Yes.
services are all centralized, and all the information you put in basically are centralized because they're in one cloud. So if you decentralize the cloud services as blockchain distributed ledger is, and you do
There's no plot for Guido
Yeah.
to pull.
But
basically you users become your own cloud, and it actually works peer-to-peer, which means it works without internet. So we can use like protocols like AirDrop and so on. So we could use our phones and interact with each other without having internet.
I have the infrastructure for it.
Oh, this is interesting.
And this
I
is
have the infrastructure for it.
He's doing
I'm selling since 5 years. Mini PCs that run in people's homes, that they spin up their own node.
Yeah,
They connect
exactly.
directly to the
But
blockchain.
at least at the moment, we have to send, if we go to the internet, we have to go to a mobile phone antenna, or we have to go to a VLAN of a house. But if you, what you said, it's very, this is very interesting.
Oh,
What also
I have more
my
information.
thought,
I
if
don't
we have a
understand.
mobile phone, which is at least sending and receiving, like in emergency case where you can use in the mountain when no coverage is, if we can then this put in a network, that even if you have no SIM card in it, that we just between phones which we are owning and with this sending and receiving function can transfer, because we are many, we have at least a spot there that this could be then independent.
It's open network. You could connect protocols like Meshtastic to it, which works.
This for me is
Complete
exactly
wirelessly.
the point. You talked about a decentralized streaming service. There are other applications in the space, but I think the true potential would become unlocked if you have a universal technological foundation for all these applications to interconnect and to work together. And that's one key aspect for this truly decentralized network to work one day, because one single entity can think of every solution to every problem there might be. So you need all of these different projects. but you-
interoperatively.
Exactly. You
Exactly.
need them to work together, and that's a foundation that we need to build.
How long it will take?
Well,
It all depends on the money.
Exactly.
And the foundation I can incorporate within 14 days.
I mean, it's completely bootstrapped. So
cheapest part of it.
Maybe one word on the regulation. I don't know how you guys operate, but we don't care about regulation. If the regulation coming up, we won't abide by it. I mean, it's basically this game we're in. I mean, so we are building on Nostr, for example, and BitTorrent and Bitcoin and Lightning. So we merge existing technologies and try to bring it together in a better way that allows a citizen journalism that is bottom up. And what we see now, regulations coming up, I mean, they will stifle every kind of free encounter that is possible, and it's based on conjecture stuff. I mean, think of the laws we had in Germany during the Nazi time, where it was an offense, or let's say it was a crime to listen to foreign radio. I mean, that was what the colleagues said behind you, tackle the user side. I mean, they can make tomorrow a criminal offense out of consuming certain products. And will we abide by it? Will the people abide by it? A lot of will be frightened maybe to do so and will not listen to these radios. But still, this brings up the question, are we citizens that believe in certain values, or are we just sheep that are obeying to whatever is the law? Is it positivism totally, like if there's a law we abide by it, Or do we look behind it and look at the center of it and the material content of the law, and saying, okay, this can't be legitimate in a way. It might be legal to do so because the state can do everything under legality, but it's still not legitimate from a point of view of where we have been going through the history of bloodshed and problems and hardship for people that were fighting for truth and for freedom. And we have to preserve this. If we don't preserve it, it's gone. And if it's gone, it will take a far more bigger efforts to bring it back. Because we have now the pre-criminalization of certain acts already. I mean, look at Assange, just publishing stuff that was not in the good sense of the United States. I mean, but it was all true, like war crimes and stuff like this. So the state can do everything to shut it down, and it's our task as citizens to fight against. If we don't do it, the future generations will hate us forever. I can assure you.
But if you have different people here with who have technology, you have platforms, you have.
We have a platform. We do a platform also.
Maybe we could on Tuesday evening for half an hour, maybe to just put together if we can make out of something more out of it. If people like this are coming together.
We can make a chat also. Right. Tomorrow comes our CTO. He's doing the presentation together, but he won't be there on Tuesday, so maybe we can do it also tomorrow. So.
Let's come to a closing for now. I heard from you the sentence, "We don't care about the regulation." That says doctor-in-law. Criminal law.
Yes.
Nevertheless,
don't obey unlawful law.
Right,
it's like this. It's your task. It's your.
We care about food. I believe we have had a great time together.